All right. Well, welcome to Staffing by Design, really talking about structuring your team with vision first. My name is Bryan Rose. I'm Auxano Senior Lead Navigator, and we host these Clarity First conversations to really bring out the challenges, the problems, the opportunities that are facing churches today. And you'll get to meet this guy by my side here in just a second. But I'm excited about our content today because we talk all the time to churches that are in some season of transition, some season of needs with staffing. And so you see his picture up here already. I'm going to formally introduce Tim Foote here in a minute, but I'm excited to bring this conversation to you. As always, hit the chat, name, city, state. That's also we're going to use a Q&A. We'd love for you, if you can, to let us know where you're watching from. I know there's probably a team in Nashville watching right now, so we're thankful you guys are here, and we're excited to be a part of this. Here's why this is an important conversation. We're going to jump right in. Staffing really is one of the most important leadership decisions in the life of a church. Right. And it's also the most emotionally complex. It's the one where if you get it right, it sets things on the next level. If you miss it, and right now you're just nodding, you're not allowed to talk yet to those things. So the reality too is this, and this is why there's so much emotion to it. Most church leaders did not design their staff structure. They inherited it. Yeah. They stepped in, especially those senior leaders, senior pastors. There's a piece of that happens. And over time, those inherited structures begin reflecting history more than vision. I know, Tim, you're ready to jump in. You're ready to talk. And so this is the premise of the conversation today. What if staffing is a vision issue, not an HR task? So many times we think about staffing and so creating backfilling spots, even hiring senior spots as, okay, this is an HR task, except for the senior pastor. For them, we form a whole team. For them, we form a search committee. For them, we have prayer moments, and everybody else, we look at VCs, we look at resumes, we look at some of those things. And so really, this does become a vision issue. Wow, so I'm going to bring you into the chat now. Tim Foote with Slingshot Group, great friend of Auxano, great friend of Visioneering Studios. We're family. Yeah. I mean, I think we're extended cousins maybe on some levels on that. I'm excited to kind of talk with you about this. Give us a little bit of your background and tell us how you came to be leading Slingshot and you know, this conversation we're having.
Thanks, Bryan. It's great to be with you. And yeah, plenty of things to talk about, staffing being a vision issue. But I lead the team at Slingshot Group. We build remarkable teams through staffing.
Say that again.
Remarkable teams through staffing and coaching.
Okay. Yeah. Remarkable?
We're about remarkable teams, not just functional teams or inconsistent teams. That doesn't match anybody's vision statement, right? But teams have been a part of my whole vocational life in ministry, experience way back in the music industry where I learned a ton about teams and the structure needed around teams. But yeah, ministry for 30 plus years, with Slingshot for over 15. We've been around for nearly 20. We've worked with thousands of churches, nonprofits to build healthy teams and to help them develop a healthy staffing strategy. That's why I resonated so much, Bryan, with how you've been talking about how strategy needs to be a part of vision.
Yeah. It's not just something that we step into easily. Tell us about the differentiator for Slingshot. I know there's search firms out there. There's a lot of maybe even more than there ever has been in this area. It seems like to me, what is the heartbeat behind Slingshot? Why do you guys do it the way you do it? And what is that way?
Well, we are relational first.
Sure.
Our team are practitioners. They've usually done the role or led the role that we are searching for.
Yeah.
We love getting to know.
You guys come from church staff to help serve church staff.
And we love getting to know the unique imprint God has given each church and each team to place on the kingdom. And that's why strategy and vision is such a driving force behind everything we do. You know, you'll hear a lot of things from staff groups. What you won't hear from Slingshot Group is you need a unicorn. So often as teams, we want to win the championship game with a one-star player and a bench of nice people. Last time I checked, the purple unicorn is still a mythical creature, like the jackalope, or the bunyip in Australia, which is where I'm from. But
I don't know what that is.
Mythical creatures. We need aligned teams that are moving mission forward, but a remarkable mission. And everybody has one. I'm sure everybody watching or listening today has a remarkable mission.
Certainly, if they're an Auxano client,
Absolutely.
they have one.
A unique expression of the Matthew 28 Great Commission. But a remarkable mission is not enough. It wasn't enough for Jesus. He needed a team to move it forward. That's how the early church grew exponentially. An aligned team that moves mission forward. Your remarkable mission deserves a remarkable team.
Love that. We'll sit on that for a minute. Your remarkable mission needs a remarkable team. That's gold, Jerry. That's gold. And kind of what that is there. I think if we get into a little bit of the content, I want to kind of walk through this with you because I know this is the heartbeat for you guys. We talk about 7 tensions that staff leaders are living with in the church. The first one is our staff structure reflects our past more than our vision. And so the way we define vision is just really a picture of the better future. So our structures maybe reflect past more than future. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you want me to quote Wayne Gretzky? You know where I'm going with this, 100%. Don't you? You know where I'm going with this.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take?
No.
Oh, that's Michael Scott quoting one.
You skate to where the puck is going, right? I'm not sure that's verbatim, but it's
skate to where the puck is going.
So you've got to staff to your vision.
Right.
And if you're using history as the guide, I think it was Steve Jobs who said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. We know who does. You can only connect them looking backwards.
Right.
But we have to learn from history.
Sure.
But we have to staff to the future.
Sure.
So it's aspirational. It's proactive. It can never be a defensive strategy when it comes to staff.
Staff to where God is leading us, even if we don't have every person in place yet. Because if he's leading us there, we trust that he's going to bring the right staff members to get us there.
The whole concept of build it and it will grow. Build it and they will come.
Yeah,
know, people flock to vision. Yeah. You want to set your vision, and then that's the thing that's going to attract great leaders, and help you move that vision and that mission forward.
We say game recognizes game, right? And so when you have a vision that's clear, compelling, it's exciting, it's a picture of God's better future. People are drawn to that. In fact, if we look at the pattern of the way God has always led his people, it's always been a picture before a plan. It's always been the heart before the head, then the feet follow in that. So I love that.
And so again, you go back to the best team. It's how Jesus called his disciples, called them to vision, and it involved a ton of risk.
I will make you fishers of men, right? And so there's that thing. Here's another one. Busy teams aren't the same as aligned teams.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we think we're busy, so everything must be going well.
Yeah, I say remarkable teams aren't just busy, they're building.
Okay.
And they are always building. And so you're asking the question, what do we need to start doing? What do we need to stop doing? What things fit the mission?
Yeah.
Who fits the mission? Who no longer fits the mission?
Yeah. Sometimes that's a hard conversation. That we can have a whole nother clarity first conversation on how to, I think at dinner last night, we heard someone say they were invited to step into the next chapter of their life. They were inviting some of their staff members to step in. And so,
that's a deep one because you can't let relationship trump vision.
Right.
And that's a really hard thing when we're in churches and we're in ministry organizations. The vision has to lead, because if you keep people that aren't matching the vision or getting in the way, you're actually getting in the way of the story God is writing in their lives.
There's something they're called to somewhere else. Here's number 3. We'll organize around activity, meaning the staff structure is organized around activity, not outcomes. And for us, we use the term outcomes as, hey, what are those marks of a maturing disciple? So much of what we're doing is saying, hey, let's just be busy, not be growing.
Again, that's a defensive strategy to be organized around activity. It's just the busy work. You've got to match, you got to define the win. And then you've got to staff to the win.
Right.
Yeah. And I can talk a little bit more about that when we talk about our 7 too.
Sure. Yeah. That'd be great. Here's the 4th one. Strategy is assumed. So structure, once again, defaults to history. That was exactly what you're saying there. That's right in alignment there. Leadership bottlenecks, like everything starts to jam up, just like on the traffic on the way to get here to the studio today, where ownership is unclear. When we don't know who owns what, then nobody owns anything, right?
Part of that is clarity of roles. And you all the time talk about clarity first. Your mission has to be bigger than you. It has to be bigger than you. And same when you hire, you're hiring to your weaknesses. Because then the organization and the mission is going to reflect your strengths. But you have to be asking, okay, how can I be more self-aware about my leadership and team aware about our team strengths so that we can staff to those and not create bottlenecks that stalls the mission.
Right. That kind of gets us. Here's the next one. The staff budget has quietly become a benevolence budget.
I think that's part of where relationship leads, and vision doesn't lead. And we talk a lot in our staffing work about the traps you have to avoid when it comes to building a remarkable team. And we talk a lot about the comfort trap, where we hire for compatibility over capability.
Okay.
And it's a terrible staffing strategy.
Well, that was one of the C's original, like chemistry, right? We got to have good chemistry. But sometimes good chemistry can get in the way of great vision.
How often do we hear leaders say, I want somebody, the number one thing I need is somebody who's a good hang.
Right.
No, that's not going to move your mission forward.
Yeah.
You actually want somebody who's going to challenge, who's going to push back, who's going to bring new thought, new ideas, innovative ideas.
Yeah, that may annoy you a little bit to the better.
Right.
Very
Absolutely.
good. Hope my wife heard that. I'm sorry.
Careful.
Change feels personal because roles are tied to identity, not impact. Here's the other tension. Anytime we make a change, we're kind of shifting ministry, we're shifting structure, some of those things. It feels more personal because they've said, hey, this is my identity, not, hey, it's impact over identity in this.
It's when you move people's cheese. I mean, people get upset about that.
Sure.
And they get attached to how they think it should be. And when it gets attached to identity, it can get really, really messy. Again, the vision always has to lead. And sometimes that means reorgs. Sometimes that means restructures. To keep that North Star in front, that conviction of why we do what we do. And we're willing to, how do you create a team of owners? We're willing to do whatever it takes to own and move this mission forward.
I love, one of the things we say is you have to be mean about the vision because clarity is kindness.
Right.
Or be mean about the mission because clarity is kindness. And so, like, if you're not mean about the mission, you can't be kind through the clarity, right? Because then there's everybody's lost in kind of the middle of it. And what this happens here is seeing these tensions at work in your organization, your church, doesn't mean leaders are unfaithful or careless, right? It's usually just we think of them as people problems, right? We think, and we kind of tend to go to the people problems, but really it is, as we've been talking about, a vision problem. Right. You've been using the word remarkable teams. I'm excited. I cannot wait. I haven't got my pre-release copy yet. I'm assuming
we'll make sure
that I'm going to get one of these. But
pre-releasing March 10.
Pre-releasing March 10 to me. Okay, perfect. Yeah, very good. Reaching for Remarkable. Tell us about the new book coming out, Tim.
Well, we have found, after working with thousands of teams, that there are 7 things that teams that are healthy and are moving mission forward, we like to say, that are reaching for remarkable, focus on.
Reaching for remarkable.
Yes. It's great. It's how you move your mission forward. And in this book, it's a pathway. We outline what those 7 things are and what traps you would need to avoid to continue moving through that pathway.
I love it.
For remarkable.
Can you give us just a flyby of the 7?
Well, firstly, it goes back to years ago, my work in the music industry back in Australia, and seeing in music, there's tracks you need to run on. There's structure you need to create a remarkable masterpiece, rhythm, key signatures, time signatures, scales, all those things. It's similar in a team, and we've identified these 7, like the 7 major key signatures. And so those 7 things, real quick, and I won't go too deep.
That's great. I think we want to hear them.
Okay. So it's conviction. It's the why behind the what. It's message, a compelling way of communicating, because everything we do communicates.
Words create worlds.
Absolutely.
Yep.
3rd is culture. You might wonder why that's not number 1, but you need conviction and a story to have culture.
Yeah, for
culture
sure.
are the values that define our team. It's the soul and soil of the team. The next is roles and clarity around roles, leveraging unique impact for remarkable growth. Systems. We talk a lot about systems. We've always got to be looking at systems, because that's how we scale and ultimately move the mission forward. It's a stewardship issue. The next is friction. And you might wonder,
I thought everything we're trying to do in our staff teams is avoiding friction.
Healthy friction propels us forward. Think about the rubber that meets the road in a car. If you don't have friction, you're not going anywhere.
A few weeks ago in Nashville, where I live, we did not have friction, and we did not go anywhere because it was covered in ice.
Exactly. I used to think that the sign of a healthy team was no friction.
Right.
But that's actually a sign of an unhealthy team.
Wait. When I'm talking to a church team and they say, "Oh man, everybody gets along. We get along great. We don't have any problems in our staff."
Warning sign.
Is that a warning sign?
It's a warning sign.
So they're either masking something or they're not doing anything.
You've got to engage healthy friction to move forward. And then the last one is risk.
Yeah.
Bold strategic moves to move the mission forward will attract and retain great leaders. So those are the 7. And then there's a bunch of traps in the book to avoid to stay moving forward. And we're going to have a team assessment, all kinds of things that help people know where to focus. It's about team awareness. We talk about self-awareness all the time in leadership. We need to become self-aware. That's great. But we don't talk enough about team awareness, understanding each other's strengths and how we
fantastic.
Move things
I
forward.
love the idea of team awareness. That's so powerful in there in that. Well, let's look at kind of in as I'm looking at staff structures, and many of our churches and pastors listening and watching have really stepped into those teams they've inherited. And there's usually one of 4 forces that really have shaped it. One of them, and probably the most prominent we talked about, is history, right? A lot of our teams are built around structures that were formed 30, 40, 50 years ago. We can even see it in some of the titles or lack of titles, some of those things. But it's really history, how we used to function back then. The next one, the habits, right? So we've developed some habits. Some are healthy, some are unhealthy, but it's how we like to function right now. There's kind of a preferential, like, hey, we want to sit in this. This one's a tough one. Hurts. How we never want to function again. How many times do you see a staff team that's built around the pain of the past versus a picture of the future?
Often. I mean, when we go into a team setting, that's what our one-on-one interviews will be all about. We want to learn the history. We want to learn what the habits are, and the hurts drive so much. But again, it's a defensive posture.
It's not an intentional forward thinking. It's looking back on that. And so a lot of times the structure is just formed around hurts, almost like a tree grows around a stake or a wire or a fence or something like that. And it's just kind of, we don't think. And then the haste is the last one, how we think we must function today. Like, how many times have you seen haste like derail staff teams because they hired quick, or they set up a structure too quick where they didn't understand kind of the background of it?
Part of that in our roles key signature, we call them the 7 key signatures in remarkable teams. The roles key signature is clarity around roles and how each particular role moves the mission forward, and having a one-line job description that defines the win and that relates to the mission. It's so important to have clarity rather than run forward in haste to hire the right person, because the cost is too much hiring the wrong person. But a lot of these forces, these 4 forces, determine when to hire internally or externally.
Tell me more about that.
Well, internally, culture's great. We've got the right people. We want to continue to have a development bench to move forward in a healthy way. When you've got warning lights blinking on the dashboard with these 4 forces, or check engine light on, you want to hire on the outside to bring somebody in that brings new thought. We'll often say when we add somebody to a team and an organization, your culture just changed a bit today. Your vision just shaped a little bit today. One of my favorite things about the work we do is when the mission of the leader matches the mission of the team. That's Holy Spirit work.
Right.
And often you need somebody from the outside to challenge the history, to relook at the habits with fresh eyes, to address the hurts and say, no, that's not a good fear to hang on to. We can do better together, and then to have an intentional staffing strategy that's not
even maybe slow down some of the things, and like, hey, let's take a I love that. That's such an important understanding, I think. And even because we get the question all the time, internal, external hire, which is the best. And I love the idea of that, and that there's a piece of that.
Often we'll walk into a team, Bryan, where they think they need an external hire, but they haven't got the fresh eyes to see that person is sitting around their table. They just need the invitation to step up and the support and coaching to do it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think, if you can train a lot of things, but you can't train values. Right. So that, like, being able to discover, hey, there's a values match here with this candidate. Even if and that's maybe more important than even if there's not an experience match, or something. Is that a fair?
Well, it's especially if people are aligned with the mission and there's conviction, and then they're going to be a learner. They're going to be curious. They carry the values. They're worth investing in for the long haul. And people who are growing in your organization are going to be doing different roles.
As your organization grows, they should grow too. And really, we're coming back around to, when we think about staffing by design, we're coming back around to the structure. Like, how are we structured? Again, once again, structured for growth, postured for where God is leading us, not where God has had us, or maybe even where we are right now. one of the tools when we talk about it from an Auxano perspective, we'll say, let strategy determine your structure, how we're organizing the mission accomplishment through the different, worship environments, some of those things. And then we think about it from a horizon storyline, that vision plan. We would say staff to your dreams, not your ruts. And so think about where God is calling us. Once again, that picture of his better future, not kind of the ruts we've been running on in the past.
It's interesting. A good indication that you need to hire on the outside, or that you need to open your hands a little bit in leadership, is one of the most powerful statements I think in leadership today is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can see the horizon storyline.
Yeah.
But I've gotten to a point where I don't know how to get there. And so I need to unlock new thought, new ideas. Maybe that's opening up around the table.
Sure.
Or it's inviting somebody new to the table who can bring new ideas to keep moving forward.
I love it. I want to bring a conversation I had, and we'll talk about it afterward, with Dr. Nolan Donald. Nolan Donald's down in Opelika, Alabama, First Methodist Church, Opelika, Alabama. I had a great conversation with him, and he talks a lot about how, the vision clarity influence that. We'll release a longer form video of this, but I just really quickly want to check out this one clip and then just talk about it with you for a minute. So let's do this.
Today we're kind of talking about staffing by design, and so Pastor Nolan Donald with First Methodist Opelika, talk to us about staffing in your vision plan, your 1-4-1-4. I see here in the background horizon, that second box over says staffing. And so we're kind of advocates at Auxano of that clarity leads staffing conversations. Values play into that, but really kind of we staff to dreams, not ruts, and we let strategy determine our structure. And that, can you tell us how big a role staffing played as you finish your visioning process to lead forward with that in this context?
So it might be a bit of an overstatement to say that it was staffing that drove the whole thing, because I told you already we had disaffiliated, and that was kind of part of what was happening. But we were in the middle of a staffing issue when we began the vision process. So we were looking for a children's director. We had a children's director who had been here 14 years. She got called to another ministry. And so I was trying to hire a children's director, and I was, I bet I'd made 100 phone calls, everyone I know, trying to find someone. And I remember talking to a fellow pastor, and he asked me, he goes, "Why do you think you've had such a hard time finding someone?" And I said, "Because I don't think we know who we are." And he said, "I think you're absolutely right." He said, "Nobody's interested in just getting the job." He said, people want to be a part of something that matters. People want to be a part of something that's making a difference. And he said, until you can clearly articulate who you are and kind of what difference your organization's making, he said, you're going to have a hard time getting anyone who's worth anything to come to work for you. And he was right. So we really kind of paused our search process for that position to say, we're going to get further down the road on our vision work so we can begin to articulate that. And then just the way it worked, we ended up hiring this grand slam children's minister, and it was born out of, we increasingly were able to articulate who we are and what we were doing. And so every bit of work we've done, and I've been here 5 years, we've turned over almost the entire staff. Once we hired this student minister, we'll have hired a new children's person, a new discipleship person, a new worship person, and then a new student person. And all of those positions are radically different because of what you see on that piece of paper.
Yeah. Tell me about how, if we're kind of walking through, Pastor, okay, so how has mission impacted your view of staffing? I know strategy, we can get to that from a structure, we can get to values, maybe even outcomes, but how the mission statement, you guys took so much time, invested in it, so proud of it. It has so much depth and meaning. Tell me about the role that plays as you're thinking about not just who you hire, but where they sit on the team and how you assign them roles there.
Yeah, so I don't know if I can articulate a specific way. One of the things I think about is even on a church leadership standpoint. So, and this is a little tangential to what you just asked, but the way our board functions is completely different because of the clarity. And so, in the old model that I pastored in for decades, we would have put like all the staff people on the board, that we would have had, death by meeting and all these meetings. But one of the things we've done is, as we've hired new staff people, we've said, you don't have to be on the board, because we can really clearly tell them, hey, we have a mission. Our board is responsible. They're the stewards of the mission. They're the stewards of the vision. They're the ones kind of making sure the environment's right. You go do this mission. And so when we hire a children's minister, we can tell them, we're not interested in you just doing lots of events. We're not even measuring, completely by the dashboard metrics of how many people are here. We're measuring by, are you inviting children in our community to find and follow the Spirit-led life in Jesus? And, so even in the last 6 months, I had our children's minister come to me, and she had kind of been running the normal Sunday morning stuff and that kind of thing. She said, I just don't feel like we're really helping kids go as deep as they need to go. And she said, I want to create a new kind of more intentional discipleship thing for kids. And it's really born out of, she's trying to help them find and follow the Spirit-led life in Jesus. And, one of our outcomes is that people are empowered followers, which means they, know and are aware of the Holy Spirit in their life and know their gifts and can hear God's voice. And so she said, I want to create an environment for that. And so it's helped us make decisions all the way around, because it doesn't have to be, well, does Nolan like this? Is he in favor of it? Which influential person is asking for this? It's like, hey, the mission makes the decision, and they can make decisions without me, because if they can tell me it aligns to who we are and what we do, then they've got pretty much my blessing to do it.
I love that, Tim. I love the thought of even as Nolan was talking about, kind of pausing their process. Again, the haste, not just dictating the structure, but dictating the hire.
Yeah.
And then saying, hey, we don't know who we are.
Right.
And how for you guys as a team, how keenly aware of that are you when you walk into a hiring, opportunity where like you get a sense of the team really doesn't know who they are. They don't have clarity around who they are. What does that usually look like or for you guys?
Well, we see identity determines function. Yeah. Identity determines hiring. So every hire you make, every key hire you make, you have to revisit who you are and who you're growing to be. You've got to look at the vision frame again. You got to look at the horizon and revisit, okay, how do we want to shift and change with this hire? We having done this now for nearly 20 years as an organization, there was a lot of art. Art.
Okay, thanks. I was like, art.
When we started,
we ought to do this. We ought not do this.
There's a lot of art. We've
That's how we say it in Tennessee.
Yeah. Okay. We've added signs. We've added a lot of signs. And listening to Nolan talk makes me think of our proprietary candidate match tool. Now we work through this tool about, okay, what are the actual attributes that we want in this leader that we're hiring? Understand they're not going to be perfect. We're not hiring Jesus. And actually, if he applied for the role, usually they probably wouldn't hire
way
him.
Too liberal.
So how do we actually align around shared language and shared competency and values in this leader, that when we're actually looking at candidates, we're aligned as a team as to what we're going after. As we're working through that candidate match tool, we're actually revisiting who we are.
Right. Coming back to the affirmation of, this is what makes us who we are. And for us, that's the vision frame, right? That's the mission that drives everything, the values that drive every decision.
Yep. And that's why staffing is such a big part of strategy, because we've had situations where the team leader, the lead pastor, will say, hang on a second, time out. We need to revisit that part, because what I'm hearing from the room now isn't what I was expecting to hear. And so we need to actually take this conversation back up to 20,000 or 30,000 feet and then come back down. It's what Nolan was saying. We have to pause the process.
Yeah. Even if it means we have a month or two without the children's minister we're seeking, because
getting clarity is way more important.
What's the sunk cost? It's just in time. Making the wrong hire at a ministry level like that, children, student, discipleship, one of those ministry levels. We're not even talking senior leadership.
Time-wise, a year to 18 months.
Okay. A year to 18 months of before, a few months, we realize this is not the right hire.
If you hire the wrong person, it's a year to 18 months.
Yeah.
If you pause, it can be a pause for a month to 3 months.
Right.
A month to 90 days.
Yeah.
As you get clarity, and it's a pause that helps you make the the right hire and a much more strategic hire that's going to propel the mission forward.
That's going to clear it forward. Yeah. I mean, I if I'm kind of just playing this out, like it's not just a time loss. That month or 2 or 3 that you invest, making the wrong hire at that family ministry level, the next gen, as everybody's calling it today. Man, there's sometimes a generational shift. I'm stepping into churches that have a whole band of age families that are gone or disconnected because we made the hire the wrong way, hastily, or out of whatever we had done, or we have had the benevolence, or we've had the relationship like you talked about, where it's just been, we haven't made the right move when we needed to for the health of the church and the movement of the vision.
The second signature of remarkable teams is message. Everything communicates a message. Everything tells a story. And when you pause to get more clarity, that's sending a really healthy message, not only to your team, but to your church.
Yeah.
Because this is an important hire. It's like when Nolan said, was it his kids pastor who didn't feel like they were sending the right message.
Yeah. It's based upon the mission and what we're here to do. I don't think I'm doing this the right way.
Evaluation around that and continuing to audit the message that's being sent, not just externally, but internally as well to your own team, your own staff, is so important.
Yeah, I love it. So great. Let's talk specifically about staffing to dreams, not ruts. And again, this is that future look forward. One of the things we say is start with the future, not the org chart. Does that bristle when you hear that?
Okay. All. I mean, we're always talking about vision. We're talking about mission. We're talking about where we want to head.
Yeah.
And then actually, when you get to the org chart stage, it's so hard not to put names automatically in there.
Yeah.
But you want the org chart to serve the mission, not the mission to serve the org chart. It is so important. So you keep your eye on the mission.
Yeah.
Then you build the structure. Then you place the names and personalities into the structure.
I sat with a great team last week, and we, on the dry erase board, redrew an org chart based upon the structure of the strategy and then kind of how those things work together. And it was very freeing for those executive leaders in the room to kind of go, oh yeah, we don't have to have a name there as long as we understand what they're doing, then kind of being able to put, and even, Ephesians 4 says, hey, listen, we should have some lay leadership leading the church, not just, the professional leaders.
Yeah, and there's a higher calling on all of us and our organizations to move that mission forward that God has placed on our hearts.
Yeah.
He takes care of our leaders. He's writing multiple stories at the same time. We just went through this at Slingshot on our own team as we wrote this book and getting ready to release it. We got to look at all of these key signatures for us, and it required some reorg. It's for us to continue to serve those that we partner with better and better.
Yeah.
That's our calling.
Right.
To continue to step into that.
We have to have those same clarity first conversations internally at Auxano as well.
Right.
Like, are we as clear as we need to be if we're going to serve them with clarity? Let strategy determine structure. This is kind of a summary. Once again, the strategy, the how for us, the bottom of the vision frame, the flashlight, the next steps, where Joe goes to grow in the organization, the fundamental elements of the assimilation pathway. I almost said pathway.
Love it.
Determine the structure. How we put our people together is how we're accompling the mission. So that's exactly what you just said.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
I would just say that plays for us into systems. You know, you've got to have the systems that serve that strategy as well. Yeah. And it's a stewardship issue. I mean, you think about it. He who is faithful with little will be given much.
Yeah.
We have to build that structure and the staffing around the strategy.
Yeah. For where God is calling us once again, and where he's calling us is dreams, not ruts. Where he's calling us is to think about his better future that he's set before us. And I go again to, God has always led his people with a dream,
right?
Always led his people with a land flowing with milk and honey, pomegranates, like to a people who didn't know what a pomegranate tasted like let alone have an opinion on whether they liked them or not.
And I will make you fishers of men.
Yeah. Coming back around to that, like, hey, a kingdom. Yeah. Jesus talked about a kingdom, a dream, a future, some of those things. And so I think that's important. Clarify ownership before adding capacity.
Yeah.
Who's owning what? You talked about the one line. Can you go back to that one line job description?
Yeah.
Can you give us a few more sentences on the value of that? Because an unbelievable amount of organizations, especially churches, have zero job description at all.
Right.
And when they do, it's a big long page with a lot of things on it. But you just did a one-line job description.
Lifting 20 pounds and all that kind of stuff.
And then other duties as assigned or something, which means,
I mean, clarity first. Clarity is kindness. It's defining the win for each role on your team, each leader. And we've found a really helpful tool. It's like the back of the napkin, right?
Yeah.
What is the one-line job description for each role, how it relates to the mission? For me, it would be Tim, as CEO of Slingshot Group, brings vision and strategy to the building of remarkable teams.
Okay.
I mean, that's my North Star. But as I lead leaders, I've got a one-line strategy for the leaders that I lead. And those are always in front of every one-on-one,
right?
Because that is the win. How is what we're talking about in this one-on-one today, achieving that one-line job description that moves the mission forward in the unique way that only that role can?
Yeah, I've got some pastor friends who are stepping into a new season of leadership, and the one-on-one, how do I do this well? And I think keeping that rooted in the mission. So almost like a one-line job description that is a fulfillment, how that unique role fulfills the mission we're called to. Is that a fair way to say
absolutely.
that? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. We talk about focusing the mission at ministry level, but I've not really ever kind of stopped to think about, okay, how do we define the mission or assign part of the mission at a positional level?
Yeah, so often, Bryan, we see that there's lack of clarity around the win for each role.
Yeah.
And it's so important. It's like when you've got a mission statement, you don't just write it on the wall and forget about it.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, but we don't want them to.
Yeah.
We want it to lead every meeting.
Right.
Just like that job description inspires every role.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, you've got to watch capacity as well. I mean, we talk about bold and strategic risk. There are traps around, okay, are we overloading each role?
Sure.
But keeping that one line gives definition and direction to each role.
Yeah, I love that. That's so important to have there. And you just talked about this, defining success beyond activity.
Right.
So many times we are sometimes justifying our role, maybe trying to make sure the church feels the worth. I think in the name of stewardship, in the name of that, me being busy means I'm important to this and I'm contributing and I'm being a good steward.
It's like, show me a calendar, I'll show you what you worship. Or show me a calendar and I'll show you how effective you are. If you're in a one-on-one, you have one-line job description and you're looking at the busyness or the schedule of the person you're leading, how does that contribute to that one-line job description and the win?
Yeah, I love that. It's really important. You don't need a perfect staff structure to move forward. Mm-hmm. True? I mean, I guess so.
If you wait for the perfect staffing structure,
you'll never move forward, right?
It's like that friction piece.
Yeah.
You've got to be moving forward in some way. It's never fully baked. It's like we say, it used to be we'll try and get you an 80% fit in staffing. Right. We would say now it's probably a 70%, and the rest of the 30% comes in the first year or two of indoctrinating that person into the organization, coaching them, training them. The organization takes it into the end zone. And likewise with staffing strategy, you can't just wait until it's baked, because it's never true. I love hearing leaders say, "Oh, I finally got everybody." We've always got staffing challenges.
Right.
If I'm in a room of leaders, it's normally 90% have staffing challenges, because every problem is basically a people problem.
Right.
And the other 10% are either in denial or they just hired somebody and it hasn't gotten challenging yet. We're all humans. We're all people. We all have challenges. Yeah. Staffing strategy has challenges. You do the best you can with what you have. You move forward and you keep evaluating.
Yeah. You said so much there. I heard you say, for Slingshot, we get you to the red zone, but you have to understand the culture, the calling, absolutely. And that's there's never going to be a staffing role higher that gets you all the way to the end zone, right? Because then you're placing way too much importance on that person. Even a senior pastor potentially is just a red zone hire, so that then our vision, how we accomplish our culture, our outcomes. Our mission is really what puts points on the board. Is Absolutely. That a fair?
Yes. Where as a staffing partner, we don't make the hire.
Right.
We make the connections. We put the ball in the hands, but it's that team that takes it into the end zone.
Sure.
And it's so important that it is, because they're the ones that are going to be doing life day to day. They're the ones that are going to be moving the mission forward, celebrating their wins, leaning into the challenges.
I kind of also hear you saying that just because they've showed up, they've moved to town, they've bought the house, their family's in school, the hire isn't finished yet. The hire is maybe another 6 or 8 or 12 months.
Yeah. We like to say leaders are built, not bought. And that's interesting coming from a staffing company, because there's obviously there's a fee involved with partnering with a staffing group or a strategy group or whatever. But the development and the building comes down to the, and you want it to, because you want that person to grow in the culture and to grow in their conviction around the mission. You have to build into that leader. And then, you send a message in the way that you hire, in the way that you onboard, in the way that you develop, that it's an ongoing, active, living, breathing process, because leaders are active, living, breathing people.
Right. Right. And ministries are active and living and breathing. Yeah. I mean, there's so much thing. I'm like, we could have a whole nother conversation about that first year.
Oh yeah. There's a lot that goes into that first year.
And when they don't put the effort in, you probably get blamed for the lack of effort.
That's why we say, hey, if there's issues, please let us know, because we want to be a part of coaching that process, because it's a sensitive time. That first 6 months to 12 months. I mean, we do first 90 days coaching that often will extend, because the organization sees the value of an outside voice. But there's so much that goes into continuing to build into that leader.
I don't want to be reductive, but if a pastor is watching, listening right now, and they're like, okay, what's one surefire thing I can do in that first 6 months or 12 months to protect, to grow, to indoctrinate, if you will, that new hire? Is there something you've seen, like if you can slow down enough to do this, it's going to change everything about the rest of that hire?
It's relational investment. It's relational equity. Where the number one cause of leadership breakdown or breakdown on teams is relational.
Yeah.
And so absolutely give attention to investing in your key leaders, especially new ones. Talk about the history, learn about their dreams, talk about how the mission and the strategy came about, and get to know them, their families, and what makes them tick, and how they appreciate being communicated with, and investing in that relational equity and putting deposits in that relational bank account will cover you when the challenges come and when you have to make withdrawals.
I love that. It's not about the perfect staff structure. It's about a clear one, right? And then let the organization do that. This thought, kind of as we wrap up here, and maybe if there's a question and answer, if there's anybody that wants to put something in the chat, maybe you and I can lean into that. When vision leads, we let the vision lead, staffing becomes clearer, right? Yeah. And when staffing is clearer, leadership gets lighter. You've seen it firsthand.
Oh gosh. I mean, vision is a compelling vision that everybody is aligned on, and there's conviction, and the message is clear, builds great culture, attracts and retains great leaders. Okay. If you've got clarity in roles, if you've got the systems to support it, if you're engaging healthy friction, so there's invitation to push back and to own it together, and you're taking bold strategic risks, you're going to attract and retain great leaders, and the staffing load or the leadership load will get lighter. I guarantee it.
You heard that from here. Slingshot CEO guarantees your staffing will get lighter.
You got to follow the pathway.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to do that.
You got to pay attention to all those things.
I'm not seeing some question. Oh, I do have a question. I see. Can you run back? For someone who doesn't want to wait till April 14th, can you just run back through those 7 signatures of a remarkable team one more time?
Get the book.
I know, but there's just the words, just the words, just the words.
Conviction.
Okay.
Message. Culture. Roles, systems, friction, and risk.
I love it. Tim Foote, thanks for joining us in the conversation today. It's been great to talk about staffing by design. It's always fun for us to get together and get to talk about what we love to do.
Yes, yeah.
So many parallels in life, but also in how we do our work too.
This stuff's important, Brian. Yeah. Your team deserves it. Your mission needs it.
Your team deserves it, and your mission needs it. Hey, thanks for jumping into this Clarity First conversation. We're glad you're here. Slingshot.org.
Slingshotgroup.org.
Slingshotgroup.org to find out more there. You'll also get an email, and we'll send a link. And man, we can't wait for the book to come out. Looking forward to seeing remarkable teams spring up all over the country. Thanks for joining the Clarity First conversation. We look forward to seeing you guys again next time.